Welcome to Building the Future, hosted by Kevin Horick. With millions of listeners a month, Building the Future has quickly become one of the fastest rising programs, with a focus on interviewing startups, entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, and more. The radio and TV show airs in 15 markets across the globe, including Silicon Valley. For full showtimes, past episodes, or to sponsor the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com.
Welcome back to the show. Today we have Will and Eddy from Interactive Brokers. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So good to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you guys on the show. I think what you guys are doing at Interactive Brokers is really innovative and cool. But maybe before we get into that, let's get to know each one of you a little bit better. And maybe, Will, do you want to go first? Maybe give us a little bit of your background, kind of where you grew up, where you went to school, and then after Eddy, let's talk about kind of how you guys met.
Surely, yeah. The fact that we're launching Impact and I'm working with Interactive Brokers now in this way is really it's a sensible culmination of a lot of the background of my life. So my father Thomas founded Interactive Brokers way back in the day. Cool. And I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, and due to that, I was very exposed to a lot of culture that is kind of based on monetary success, as well as seeing. I remember going into the Interactive Brokers office when I could barely walk, and seeing the Bloomberg portal and seeing, hearing all the transactions made and the business be built. And
that's cool.
Yeah. Thanks. It was definitely interesting. And then, my father, being who he is a huge proponent of capitalism and free markets. And so again, due to that and his passion there, he was always teaching me a lot of the laws that kind of govern these worlds. And so I grew up with a large exposure to that. I went to school. So I went to high school at boarding school in Massachusetts. And soon after that was really excited to see other parts of the world and have different experiences. And I've always been extremely environmentally conscious. Nature was a place I would always go to find peace, to kind of meet myself. I remember I did a huge 300-mile backpacking trip in Alaska when I was 16. Wow. And that was when I really was like, this is it. This is it for me. This is what feeds my soul in a way. And so also seeing, in real time, the destruction of the planet and our environment, and started at a pretty young age, putting the idea together that through money, through these systems, through investment, through finance, we would be able to have an impact on kind of the overall reciprocity between human systems and natural systems. And so went to college at CU. I studied environmental studies, and that was very eye-opening to me, just in a lot of the science components. But where a lot of schooling happened for me was in my summers. I would go and work on regenerative ranches that were up in Montana, other places of Colorado. And these ranches are using rotational grazing or savory method, which is a new regenerative form of land management that, it really mimics how herd animals would be in the natural world if we hadn't removed predators. And so we see that through modern day land management, like most of land that's under management of grazing animals, it becomes desertified pretty quickly. And I remember this one morning, it was really fun. I loved working up there. And, I'd wake up at 5 a.m, saddle up my horse, go move a bunch of cows and, just working that way for the day. And I remember I was fixing a fence that was on the perimeter of the borderline of our property. And I saw on this fence on our side, we had green, lush, thick, diverse grasses and healthy, dark topsoil. And it was moist and healthy. And directly on the other side of that fence, it was dust. It was just, super dry, not holding any water. And I started to wonder at that point, why isn't everybody doing it this way? Like the value is so clear that it's worth the extra work that you have to do to achieve that. And pretty much influenced my family investing in some of these ranches, and saw the reports start coming back and started realizing, wow, like these ranches managed in this style generally lose a little bit of money every year or break even, whereas a traditionally managed ranch is profitable. And that's when the cogs really started turning, where I was assessing our economy and the values inherent within it, and seeing how it was really incentivizing a lot of the destruction of our natural world as well as our social communities and well-being. And so pretty much from that point, after college, I moved off and I started living in regenerative communities that were very earth focused. So, I took my PDC, I learned about permaculture, I
Interesting.
took community development, and I would live on these places where we were growing our own food and living this very high vibe, healthy lifestyle. And I, at a certain point, realized I couldn't continue doing that anymore. I had to go off and expose, like, bring this to the world, bring this culture, bring this way of being to the world, and and to our financial system. So at that point, my family, my sisters and I, who I'm very close with, we eventually got a family foundation set up, which is something we'd been dreaming of for a while. And so that was a philanthropic foundation really focused on helping a lot of the environmental issues, as well as communities that are kind of taking the brunt of our flawed systems. And in that process, it became clear to me that we had to invest the majority of assets in that foundation. And that kind of fell on my shoulders to lead. And I realized it was extremely challenging to create a portfolio that was not contributing to the very problems we were trying to solve with our grant making. Um, and so this was, this interesting space to be in. I dove into finance at that point, and I moved to New York and I started working in finance. And it took me about a year of hard work and focus to figure out how to do that. We eventually did create a values aligned portfolio, and it actually performs better than market most of the time. But it was extremely challenging to actually create that. So that, somewhat brings us to present. Soon after that, I moved to New York again. I was working in finance, and I did that for about 3 years at different hedge funds. Um, and I left there very disheartened because I had seen a lot of the inherent values that kind of run our finance system, and saw how it was really just purely focused on capital return. And a lot of these large investments were the only thing that would be considered was the monetary return, not considering any of the other value, any of the other impacts that a company or a project would have. And these impacts we call in the economy externalities, but we're starting to see that these externalities have, they are communal, they impact all of us, and they need to be on the balance sheet accounted for in our finance systems. Um, so soon after that, moved to New Mexico, worked for Bioneers, which is an amazing nonprofit that focuses on a lot of education around consciousness and regenerative land management and biomimicry. It gives a voice to marginalized communities, particularly indigenous groups. And I worked there for 3 years running our foundation. And then that brings us to 2019, where I knew my father was stepping down as CEO at Interactive Brokers. I had kind of avoided wanting to go into working for the firm um, until this point where I started to see ESG really, start to have life, and I started to see that ESG, though it's not the end goal in any way, is a giant foot in the door in the direction that our economy needs to go. So I decided to join the firm and brought ESG to the firm. And so I'm on the board of directors. And after my first meeting, I made this proposal to really push for ESG and regenerative finance and sustainability. And at that point, I became, Interactive Brokers ESG director. And soon, very soon, my my first goal there was to get support. And so I really, through leading this from such an authentic place that really isn't about greenwashing or just ticking the box because everybody is doing it, which I see a lot of in finance, was really looking for somebody who was passionate and heart aligned and dedicated to the same thing that I was. And lo and behold, I found Eddy. So grateful to this day to have been working with him for the last 2 years. And we put our heads together to really figure out how to internally, transform the corporation to walk with the values of ES&G, as well as to create these products and services to kind of bring this to the world. And I think that's a pretty great segue into Eddy.
Sure. Eddy, do you want to give us a bit of background on yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Will, for that. That's awesome. And thank you, Kevin, for having us here once again. I was born in Mexico City and come from a very diverse background. My parents are from the Middle East, specifically Egypt and Lebanon. They're both Jewish. They immigrated to Israel, got married there, and then they moved to Mexico, right? So always inserting that element of diversity was there at a very young age. We came to the States when I was around 12 years old. I went to elementary school last year, obviously, and high school. And, it was a bit difficult. It was kind of like a culture shock coming from another place. It's a totally different world to me. And, it started sort of my journey of sort of learning how to adjust to different societies, communities, cultural backgrounds, and it started enriching it, right? So this whole aspect of sort of diversity and inclusion became a passion of mine. Sort of like what Will was mentioning, the environment side, which I still love, and I love nature. For me, it was more the social side of things. Went to college here in New York, at New York University, and then I left and I went to GW, George Washington University, to pursue my master's. I did an MBA, and then I did an MA in international relations. Again, the whole international was always there.
Sure.
And I never realized, thank you. I'm always chasing the international. I'm like, why am I always majoring on this international, that international? Subconsciously, something was there, right? And I'm fortunate enough, Kevin, to have grown in such a diverse upbringing that I was able to learn a number of languages. That also opened up the doors to constantly meet people from all sort of walks of life. And I love it. I'm always so intrigued about where people are coming from, where they're going, what their passions are. And that inspired me throughout my life. I started, my career in finance, but all these years, something was always lacking. Like I was doing all my jobs and yes, but I'm like, oh God, is this what it's all about? There has to be more. And so one time I was in South America at a conference, and it's the first time that I heard ESG. This is probably like 7 or 8 years ago. And I was like, wow, ESG at a finance conference? What's this all about? And then when I started hearing about it, something ignited inside of me and opened me up like never before. I was like, seriously? You can actually, take finance and invest in things that are going to be beneficial to the planet, to societies. I'm like, that really exists. And so I became so passionate about that I started teaching myself ESG. I literally started printing all sorts of articles about environment, social, and governance, about the field, how it's emerging, how it's being done around the world. And, I was so intrigued about it that I really wanted to pursue it full time. So in my prior firm at Brown Brothers Harriman, I pretty much proposed this to the firm way before it became pretty popular. I just stepped up and like, we need to do this as a firm. So I kind of pioneered and led that effort, but I wanted to do it full time. And that's when I saw a posting at Interactive Brokers, and I had the fortune to have met Will, which was an amazing sort of first meeting over the phone. I remember so well. We bonded immediately not so much about the job first, but more about our passions for the environment, for society, and here we are, and here at the present, Kevin. So.
Hi there, and welcome to Wake Me Up, the podcast where morning people are made. I'm your host, Tyler. Wake Me Up is based on one simple fact. How you start your morning dramatically affects the rest of your day, both your productivity and your happiness. And Wake Me Up is designed to be a one-stop shop for a great morning. By using Wake Me Up and changing your morning routine, you can change your life. Instead of hitting the snooze button over and over, or scrolling through a sea of negative news and judgy social media, just press play on an episode of Wake Me Up. You can even start every episode from bed if you want. Most episodes blend mindfulness and meditation, some simple yoga or stretching, and send you off with a motivational bit. If it's morning for you right now, go ahead and pick out an episode. If not, I'll talk to you tomorrow morning. And either way, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day.
Very cool. So, I think it's kind of a stupid question, but why has it taken so long for, I think, not even just the financial industry, a lot of industries to actually really start caring about the environment and sustainability on this planet?
I don't have the one answer for that. It's a great question. I would venture to guess that it's cultural.
Okay.
The culture that we've seen kind of really take rise and take hold in like mainstream Western culture has, there's a fantastic book out there called Sacred Economics. So what I've noticed is like spirituality and religion, I feel, used to be a much bigger part of really any culture, and the idea of sacred, and what is that? And I think, see in mainstream Western culture that money has really taken on the energy that we used to imbue in what is sacred. And we see that, like, something that I like to say is that, like, we have, if I love the rainforest, and often I attempt to liken our ecology to an economy, because, really, we should be doing biomimicry in all the senses. Nature really has the best solutions to pretty much all of our problems. And if we look at an ecology, and we look at a giant majestic ceiba tree in the rainforest, and it's housing so many critters and giving us oxygen, creating all of this value, and that tree easily could be cut down in modern day in the name of $1. If we take a fish, for example, like swimming in the ocean happily and healthily, it's worth nothing in our economy. Though if you kill that fish and take it out of the ocean, all of a sudden it's worth money. And so what's happened is our economy and what values are inherent in what it takes to make $1 has, in a sense, is incentivizing the destruction of our natural world in very real time. And the cultural difference, I think, that's here, which is why at my organization and my foundation, we're really big believers and supporters of indigenous and earth-based ways of being. And the amazing thing there is that those ways of being do not distinguish between us or that fish. We are all a part of the natural community, and our economy is incentivizing, the chopping down of these trees and the catching of these fish, because it doesn't recognize that we are just, the same as this tree or this fish in living in our shared natural community. And I think the internet has been huge with understanding this, because we used to have very kind of more blinders on, and we're really focused to, like, what's happening if we're living in a city, what's happening
Right.
within the city, and not seeing how our actions affect the world in a big way. And, something also changed with, I don't remember the term of this, but when we saw the Earth for the first time from outer space, it shifted consciousness in this way. And in this way of understanding that, we all live on this one small planet together, and it's really our job to steward that planet. Both, each other and, our social relationships and with each other, and, any other animal or plant that we eat, it's our responsibility in essence to take care of those things as well. And that I think it's a cultural consciousness shift that we're making. COVID's been honestly helpful in that degree, which has given us the opportunity to step back and really look at our lives and what is our impact, and how do we want to be spending this life that we have. That's my best answer.
No, I think that's good. Anything to add to that?
Sure. In addition to what Will mentioned, I think it's also the new generation of millennials, right? As they grow up, they're starting to feel more passionate, and not they're starting to, but they are very, very passionate about sustainability, right? And we're seeing that globally, right? And they are the next generation of consumers, right? Companies need to start listening to that, right? So some companies are genuinely embracing it, while others are reluctantly embracing it. But listen, it's the power of their wallet, right? And they're the ones that are going to buy their products. So I think that also has had a huge impact in such a focus on sustainability across all sorts of industries.
Yeah.
There's a great statistic out there that says millennials we're 4 times, we're the first generation to be this way. We're 4 times more likely to buy a more expensive eco-friendly product than, a cheaper mass-produced one.
Right.
And that's such a big telltale sign that, we're making that transition.
Sure. Yeah. So how do you guys apply that mindset at Interactive Brokers and into the financial industry? Because let's be honest, I don't think a lot of companies care about it, or not enough yet care about it.
That's really the impetus of the Impact app, and it's what we're seeing with ESG, and it's, I think the biggest thing that the Impact app invites is, the first thing that you go through when you get onto that app is it asks you 13 values oriented criteria. So you get to answer, pretty much when you're going into this investment headspace. Most people I've seen go into that and it's really just financially driven. But making that connection to the fact that your financial decisions, every investment is an impact investment. It just matters if you're conscious of that impact or not. And so the Impact app, starting off with saying, what do you care about, I think really makes that connection to people who are making financial decisions, that when we're making financial decisions, we're engaging and being, a creator on this planet. So it's like empowering people to take their financial reality and their decisions as a part of their responsibility as a member of the community. And as we start to see again, this new generation, both of millennials and also just, it's happening. It's the tides are turning. Other people are thinking this way as well, that, value is more than in just a dollar. And so when you're making decisions, you get to incorporate, do I really care about oceans? Do I really care about, social issues, or, and put that in as the forefront of your financial decisions, which I think also takes people out of somewhat of a victim story, and really gives, it's exciting to be a creator. And I think the Impact app, that's the component that I'll speak to that does that. But it's got a lot of other functionality in there as well to really like it be, again, a creator kind of your world with your finances. Yeah.
Cool. So, go ahead, Eddy. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem, Kevin. I was just going to add to what Will said, that we're looking forward into who's going to be the new generation of investors, right? And to Will's point, that's the generation that we're catering to, and we're starting to create products around some of the major things that they care about, which is the planet. And also as a firm, we don't want to just put out products. We want to walk the talk. We want to be genuine. So we're also starting to incorporate some of those elements that you see in the app into our overall culture in terms of environment, in terms of social, and in terms of diversity, inclusion, governance. So we're very excited about this journey, and management has been extremely supportive of this journey.
Yeah, and just to also add, like, as we continue to invest in this way, as people continue to be aware of, what are the other impacts of an investment, we're starting to see large corporations that previously, would be immune to some of these like social beliefs. But now through ESG and through this, this new era of investment, like, companies are really going to be held to the fire about their accountability and what are their impacts in the the whole community. So we're already starting to see that in a big way, and I think it's just going to continue.
Very cool. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the other features of the apps, and maybe try to put it in a way that, like, is it basically pretty similar to a traditional investing app? Just the companies you guys are investing in have that ESG sustainability, and all the other things you outlined, or how does that kind of tie in or play into what people kind of traditionally expect, and how you're different from traditional investing apps?
You want to lead with that one?
Sure. Happy to. So, Kevin, we are really excited about Impact. We feel it's like no other app out there. It's not your traditional
Okay.
investing app at all. First, it's very simplified, right? So it could
Okay.
be for any investor. So anybody that can go in there. It's like, even if you never invested before, you'll see that the user interface is so clean and so simple. We obviously are targeting socially conscious investors, but once again, even beginners can look at this app. The other amazing thing, Kevin, is that it is a personalized journey, right? So as Will alluded to before, users first start by selecting the values they care about, right? And so that's already personal in itself. You're like, wow, and it makes you think, okay, what is more important to me on the buckets of environment, social, and governance? After selecting that, you go into another filter, as also Will alluded to, which is the areas you want to avoid, right? I don't want to be in companies that deal with animal testing. I don't want to be with companies that, are in the tobacco, weapons industry, and a couple of other areas too to select from. And with that, you're off to the races, right? On your personalized journey. It'll give you a letter grade on your existing holdings and portfolio, and give you an opportunity to improve your score, right? By giving other companies that rank highly in a particular value that you care about most. And so that in itself is a very personalized journey. I don't want to mention everything because I want to leave some for Will too. But the other thing that I think is pretty cool is the opportunity to give back to communities, right? That's very unique in our app. So it's a charitable feature. We call it Give. So that's also personalized, Kevin, right? So if I selected, for example, gender equality or clean air, the app itself will immediately have a list of companies within those two values. And I'll be, wow, these are the things that I care about most. And so you'll be able to donate directly from the app and give back to communities in a personalized way. So I'll turn it over to Will because we have many other features, but I didn't want to sit here for an hour. I would let Will to also talk about the features he likes the most.
Thanks, Eddy. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is it's values based, it's heart based. So when you start off and you input your values, the whole app, functions based off of that. So once even if you're uploading a portfolio you currently have, or you're starting from scratch, you'll see your portfolio through the impact lens, and that has a letter grade in the middle that speaks to the alignment of your entire portfolio with all of your values sets. And then around that is a ring that pretty much is sectioned, that each section corresponds to a position within your portfolio. And so the sections that show up as this nice, healthy dark green, those are fully aligned with what you've stated to care about. And then it's a color scheme all the way to kind of more of a yellow color, and the yellow positions are out of line with your stated values. And so what you can do is hover over this yellow section. It'll say, this company who is out of line with your value of ocean life. It'll show you an article that'll say, this company just got flagged for dumping a ton of toxic sludge in the ocean. And, here below this are other companies that are more aligned with your values. And so we really wanted to make this process of realigning your finances with your values seamless. And so we developed what's called the swap feature. And so you can, with the click of one button, switch your assets from this more out of line company to that is in a similar industry with a similar market cap, but has operations that are more aligned with your values. So there's that real seamless way to just realign. And it's also, we have the charitable giving, and it'll also show you charities and nonprofits that are again aligned with the values you've spoken to. And so there's that, and then it's also a research tool. So you can research, for other companies based on your values, and find other investment opportunities that are really aligned with you. And we also recently launched our crypto functionality. And so you can also invest in the blockchain markets. And we are really excited about evolving that in the future. We see blockchain as a really awesome, new development, new technology that is going to be super helpful in bringing about this regenerative investing community, this regenerative economy. And so those are the ones that are currently out there. And again, we're super, super excited about the other developments that we'll continue to bring.
Interesting. So I'm curious, and I don't agree with what I'm about to say, but I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on. Some people say, and I own some crypto, that cryptocurrency is actually bad for the planet just because of how we mine it with all the energy and stuff. What are your guys' thoughts around that? Because of your sustainability kind of ESG approach to all this stuff.
Yeah. So that I know that is a hotly debated subject out there. And I think that, glad to hear you don't agree with that. People who see it that way are really looking at just the toenail of the elephant and not seeing the whole thing.
Right.
So because the ethos behind cryptocurrency is that we can have different currencies that speak to different value sets. And, so much of the underlying facts of our economy is what is valuable is what people believe in. And currently we've only had this one currency really to speak for all of the values and all of the beliefs that it's, life is more complex than that. And so we can see through the development of new currencies and the blockchain that people will be able to stand up for, speak for, and invest in more specific value sets. And, certain currencies, yes, like Bitcoin is, yes, it takes a lot of energy to mine. And there's other currencies that don't. And there's also, it's kind of like that. It's like dial-up internet. It's just at its first stage, and where it can go and where it is going, particularly in the regenerative finance space, is going to be so important for this new future that we see. There's going to be the ability to, and something that, I really believe in, is have currencies that speak for biodiversity, that speak for clean air. We see this originally with the carbon markets, and that's one great step that, those markets have been flawed for some time, but through a lot of crypto activity, we're seeing those markets start to balance out a little bit more. The what a ton of carbon in the ground is worth is rising. And carbon is just the beginning. There's again, having currencies that speak for biodiversity, clean water, healthy social communities. This is all possible with cryptocurrencies. And as well as new data monitoring technologies that are evolving to be able to monitor health of communities and health of land. And so in that regard, I see it as really helpful for our environment. And again, there's mainstream currencies are known for being energy intensive, and there's also a lot of currencies developing that are not.
No, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing that I thought was really interesting about Impact and what you guys are doing with that is I can basically buy a fraction of a share, or how does that kind of work? Because obviously everybody would love to earn or own, a company that their shares $1,000 for one, or whatever the number is. How does that kind of work, and how is that different than traditional kind of investing?
Sure. So fractional shares is something that we're very excited about, and to what you're alluding to, Kevin, it opens up the door for anyone to invest, right? So you're able to go in and own any stock that would be astronomical to buy just one share. So you're able to put in the number of shares that you're interested in, right? And obviously they're fractions of shares, and based on that, you'll be able to buy your most favorite company. So once again, if you selected your values within the app, or areas you'd like to avoid, that can definitely help to support your goals within the app. So it's a unique feature combined with all the other things that makes our app very, very unique, I guess I'm using it again, in the marketplace.
Sure.
So
no, that's really cool. Because obviously you can do it the same, but that's kind of really how cryptocurrency works, right? Like, yes, you can buy one Bitcoin, but sometimes it's one Bitcoin is 40,000 or 50,000 sometimes. And, if you want to put in $100, well, you're not owning one Bitcoin.
Exactly.
You're owning a fraction. So
yeah. And it's very intuitive in our app, by the way, to figure out. People hear like, oh, fractional shares, how do I compute? We have a whole internal algorithm that will be based on, I only want to invest $50, right? Sure. And then they'll be able to compute the fractions automatically. So
very cool. So I'm onboarded. I have my portfolio, whether it's new or I imported my current portfolio into Impact. How do I use it kind of on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Walk us through the journey as an ongoing thing. Am I like prompted with stuff? Am I notified? How does that kind of work?
Will, you want to take it, or should I? Okay, sure.
Lead off.
So yeah,
I'm happy to supplement.
No problem. Yeah, jump in whenever you'd like. So yes, Kevin. Once you are a client of Interactive Brokers and of Impact specifically, and you have your holdings and you funded your account, it's very intuitive, as I was mentioning, and it's very easy to look at. You select your values, as you mentioned before, the areas you'd like to avoid. You go to the Impact homepage or the Impact tab, and you'll be able to see your letter grade. And Will already talked about the different slices of the ring. You'll have all your securities below. It's very easy to navigate. You can look at your values. If I want to look more into, okay, clean air, what's happening in clean air today, right? You can go to that specific value and take a look at not just news regarding clean air, but also you'll be able to see all the stocks, your securities within clean air, and see how each one is performing, right? With what we call the impact effect, right? It has a little leaf, and it's color shaded from dark green, meaning the best performing, to light green, meaning the ones that don't align the most. So you'll be able to see how each one is contributing to your overall value. You click on that security itself, and then you have a whole other screen with amazing information about the company, about how it's performing in all of the other values that you selected. You'll be able to take a look at news, as Will mentioned, like a research tool. And so it's quite intuitive. And again, you can immediately go from that section to the gift section, so you can donate. It's all very personalized and customized, and it's really unique. I don't know, Will, you want to add anything else to that?
Totally, yeah. And one of the cool things about it is that our impact score, which is comprised of two different data providers, as if you follow ESG, you can see that depending on what data provider you go to, you'll get a different score on different companies. And so we went with a blend of Refinitiv, which really is more traditional in how it scores companies, looking at information put out by the company, websites, SEC filings, things like that. And then we also have True Value, which is a FactSet company, but it only looks at information put out by a third party. And so it'll, scan social media and scan news articles. And these scores are updated daily. So as companies shift, their score will also shift. Your impact score will shift in turn. And so I'm from, the generation of Tamagotchis, which is just a funny thing to think about. But you can kind of treat it as, you check up on it daily. Like one of your intentions is like, I want to be really aligned in all of my actions with, not just your finances, but all other actions. I think that's a very important thing for all of us to be looking at. And as you continue to, you can check every day, like, oh, my score is a C. I really want to see it go up. You can go do research and find other companies that'll help your values go up. Like I have a ton of fun using the research feature and just figuring out what companies are making big changes in the areas that I care about. And so, that's how we really hope to engage people in a daily basis. And also through our charity, through the give feature, you can put in, I want to give away a certain percentage of my profits to charity every year. And you can, set time frames within that. So it'll say like, you're not doing your charitable giving the way you've said, and it'll let you know that, so it can incentivize you to go kind of more into the giving headspace and do some of that good work there.
I also, sorry, Kevin, just one more thing, because we got me all excited. We can keep talking for this forever. Is that we really, really feel this app is not intimidating for a beginning investor, right? Someone that just wants to start on their sustainability journey. It's very easy to use it, as we mentioned before, but we also provide for someone that's brand new and it's like, how do I even start investing in ESG?
That was going to be my next question.
Sorry, I jumped the gun.
No, it's good.
Good one.
Sorry.
I don't even know what to look at, like what securities, how do I research? I have no idea. So we offer off-the-shelf portfolios, right? Through one of our affiliates called Interactive Advisors. We have 13 different kinds of sustainable and responsible investing portfolios, right? So the 13 values that we'll talk to at the beginning, we have a portfolio for each one of them. So if Kevin goes into the app and is very passionate about clean water and pure air, you have portfolios that we already built for you that you can just go in and at a very minimal price, $100 only to start off, you can go off to the races and invest in that portfolio. So that will help someone that's new. So just wanted to add that, Kevin.
No, very cool. So, and then can I get like a yearly wrap up or every 6 months, or how does that kind of work to know like kind of how I'm doing at the end of the year or something like that?
Yeah, you're able to do it even as soon as you start on a monthly basis, right?
Okay.
So right on the home screen, you'll have a little chart with a line that tells you how your portfolio is performing, and you can actually with your finger move that line to see when you started, what the price was of your whole portfolio, how you've been doing, and you'll be able to interact with it and look at, wow, not only did I help in gender equality, but my portfolio also went up by X amount during this time period. So it's pretty dynamic. It's real time, as we'll mention, but also you're able to see since the inception of your investments how you've been doing.
Very cool. So which countries is the app available today?
So that's a good one. I hope I remember. Will, you want to start?
I think we went international about a month ago.
Okay.
Yes, around a month ago. So I can tell you that we are available in Australia. I know we're in Singapore, we're in Hong Kong, we're in Ireland, we're in Hungary, we're in the UK, also in the EU for most markets, and Australia as well. Yes. And so, and also in quite a number of other countries, because we're organized by entity in where we registered, right?
Okay.
So it's a lot of countries, even in South America and other places. So we're available, obviously, in the Apple Store and Google Play Store.
Got it. Very cool. Okay. So we're kind of coming to the end of the show, but is there anything else that you guys want to mention about Interactive Brokers or Impact or anything else you want to mention?
There's one quick thing, and just to also wrap it up in terms of the user experience, we also allow people to go in and test the app, right? They have a free trial. They can go in and test it with virtual money, where, if you're not ready to fund your account yet, you can go in and have sort of this virtual amount set and go in and buy and sell securities with real-time information in the market. So I think that's also a neat feature for people to do a test run before they commit. Will, I don't know if you wanted to add something else.
Yeah, just generally on Interactive Brokers and why we are, kind of leading the way in ESG and impact investing, is really about the authentic place that we come from, and I can speak to that because I've been working from kind of ground zero with the board as well as the firm collectively at driving a lot of these values forward, and the excitement among management has grown. They've been extremely receptive to a lot of these transitions that we're making, and we're aware that it's kind of a new generation and so there's a lot of people don't like change freaks people out, and so we are really from an authentic place driving all of the values that are inherent within ES&G, as well as the values of this new generation and this new paradigm that's coming, and we're committed to continuing to come out with new products and services, as well as make the internal changes that are needed so that the new image, the tools that we're releasing, that we're walking that talk too. And so, just wanting to say that we are committed to that. We're making a lot of changes. 2022 is an exciting year for us with what we've got in the pipe as far as in both internal and external developments. And so really, just wanted to speak to that. I'm very happy, and obviously it's somewhat personal to me as it's my father founded the company. I now get to be a part of changing it and bringing it up to speed with our new paradigm. And so, just a lot of excitement, and keep an eye out because we're going to be making some awesome changes and new products as well.
Well said, Will. And I'm also very excited to be on this journey, and we look forward to seeing a whole lot of positive change in the world. So thank you.
Very cool. So how about we close the show then mentioning again where people can get more information about Interactive Brokers, Impact, and any other links you guys want to mention?
Sure. For Interactive Brokers, they can just search us ibkr.com. We also have a dedicated Impact website, which is awesome. So that's impact.interactivebrokers.com. And then to download the app, it's Impact by Interactive Brokers, and that can be searched in the Apple Store and in the Google Play Store.
Great one. And another one to speak to is if people want more education around what's happening when it comes to regenerative economy and things of that nature. So the organization I founded a year ago is called One Small Planet, and we consider ourselves largely a vital capital group, only investing in things that are vital, but also proving that like vital for life, but proving that that's financially viable. And, the ethos of that organization is really to be the hands of nature and to bring harmony to people and planet through, changing our economy to mimic our ecology, and for the values of those things to be, to be aligned. So no longer will capital gain be coming at the expense of extractive industries, but, really focused 100% in that area. And our website is soon to launch, so if you want to check out more, we'll be publishing content soon enough. And that website is onesmallplanet.org.
Very cool. Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks,
too,
Kevin.
Really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit our website at buildingthefutureshow.com to join the free community, sign up for our newsletter, or to sponsor the show. The music is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.